breed-specific legislation or breed discrimination is what it is. So, BSL. Well, as I'm an employee here, but I'm also the founder and president of Grand Rapids Pit Bull Alliance. We are an advocacy group. We are not a rescue. However, we're a coalition where there are members who are volunteers from like the Humane Society of West Michigan and other employees who are part of our group. We have other rescues, individuals in rescues that are actually part of our group. We're fairly new because we didn't have something like this in the Grand Rapids or West Michigan area.
No.
Over on the east side of the state, there's a lot of rescue-specific, pit bull-specific rescues that deal with a lot of the advocacy and education when it comes to BSL and pit bull-type dogs and other breeds that are susceptible to breed-specific legislation. But we never had that here. So it falls on the shoulders of our rescues and our shelters who are very overwhelmed. So I kind of was like, I've been thinking about it for a while, and like I said, I can go back to Vinny. I fostered and adopted him from here. He's my first pit bull type dog. He was here. He was actually in isolation here at Humane Society of West Michigan because he was so stressed in the shelters. He was a leash biter. He had a lot of issues, and he was a hard case. So when I fostered him, I'm single. I don't have children, live alone, so I was a prime candidate for the hard cases. So they sent me Vinny. And after one weekend, because I was doing weekends with Fido is what we did here, which is a weekend foster program. After one weekend, they noticed a difference in how he was. So every weekend I would come get him, and then we realized, well, let's try a week, because he wasn't an alert barker, which my previous foster, Jupiter, was an alert barker, and I couldn't have an alert barker where I live. Sure enough, he was with me for the full week, and he did fabulous. So 1 week turns to 2, to 3, to 4, to like, I guess we're, Vinny and I are going to adopt each other, because he's my world. But by having him is how I started to see the hate and the discrimination of my dog, and it just blew my mind. And I've had dogs my whole life. Me and my brothers were raised with dogs, and I've had different breeds. I had chows as a kid, and even as a kid, I remember people talking pretty nasty about my dogs. But I'm a kid, and didn't know. Well, now I know what they were kind of getting at, because chows are treated similarly as pit bull type dogs. So, I'm walking Vin, and I see somebody literally walk 10 feet out of their way because of what he looks like. And it was just frustrating. Like, if you stopped, Vinny would drop on his stomach and roll around. And his favorite thing to do is roll on just your feet. That's if he likes you, which he loves everybody. He rolls on your feet. Like he's the sweetest thing in the world. And he's one of over 3 million dogs like him in this country that there are groups specifically created to target and hate on those dogs. And it's just wrong. And I feel like the perception, when people see these dogs, just because of their look, their boxy head, their stocky legs, because of what we've been told from different stories and incidents, that appearance is mean, that appearance is dangerous. And it's just crazy to me, because that's just how he looks. Like, he's a big goofball with a giant head, like my chow was a big fluff ball that looked like a teddy bear, and to deem that as mean or violent, because it's not bad dogs, it's bad people, but they always want to go straight to the dog, and that's where I started to get more involved in advocacy and more learning and more wanting to help and do whatever I can and just educate myself as much as I could, because I want to make a difference. And I just think it's so unfair, So here we are now, and in 2014, there was a bill introduced, SB 239, to the Michigan legislature. It passed in the Senate, and I think we passed with 12 votes for us, I think. And so it was waiting in the House. So, and it looked like we had great support, and there were hearings on it, and the hearings went well for our side. You know, the typical opposition where some of the hate groups had people calling from out of state, pretending to be Michigan residents and calling up our representatives and saying, don't pass this bill, da-da-da-da-da. Well, it never got to the next point in the legislature. It never got to the House of Representatives because basically the session ended. So it was on for 2 years, the session ended, so the bill died. So here we are now, 2017, and hopefully, you know, we'll be working on another bill soon. But in the meantime, we have roughly, I believe, 12 to 13 areas in Michigan that do have some sort of breed-specific legislation, whether it be soft BSL or straight-up BSL. And that's what we're working, we want to eliminate. We don't have BSL in Grand Rapids, luckily. Ypsilanti Township has soft BSL. Waterford has BSL. Hazel Park recently changed in the past 2 years their BSL laws, which I believe it's completely removed. But there are some stipulations, so as far as fencing and things like that. It's sad because it's a blanket policy, usually brought on by panic when an incident happens, but it doesn't necessarily address an issue of a dangerous dog. It targets good people and good dogs and makes them, and criminalizes them. And it also doesn't make the community any safer, and it doesn't help, it doesn't educate. It doesn't, you know, my personal feeling is the way to make community safer is to educate. And by putting a law on the books and saying this is it, these dogs aren't allowed, or if you have these dogs you have to do this and this, you're not educating, because you're saying, well, this is in place, so we don't need to worry about anything else because this will take care of it. Bottom line is, you know, it's not the dogs, it's the people. So to curb incidents, regardless of the breed of dog, you need to get to the people, and you need to educate them, and it's owner responsibility, and that's where we need to get. Unfortunately, there are lawmakers that think that this will fix everything, which we know it doesn't. Across the United States, we see city and states repeatedly repealing BSL because they're learning that their numbers actually aren't changing, or they're going up because they're not doing dangerous dog laws. So the issues of bites or attacks are not going down because they're not addressing the underlying issues. They're just trying to say, well, you just can't have these dogs and it's going to fix the problem, and that's not what's going to happen.